Today I'm going to be talking about the firearm homicides in the United States. An overview of what I'm going to be talking about today includes: do gun laws need to be changed? How do the current laws affect homicide rates? What role do different weapon types play in the total amount of homicides? How are lost or stolen firearms handled in the United States? And how do different states compare to each other in regards to the strength and restrictions placed on their people? So a little introduction. The United States has a long history with firearms, selling to both sides in World War II until the US inevitably became involved. In 2012 alone, 11 million non-military use firearms were manufactured. Approximately 300 million firearms are owned across the United States, and that the right to bear arms is written right into their constitution. And now, currently, the laws are so weak in the majority of states that an 18-year-old can walk into any gun store and buy something like a fully automatic assault rifle, a large caliber sniper rifle, or something simple like a semi-automatic M4 carbine and ammunition without a background check whatsoever. And something additional that I thought would be interesting is that my opinion on the matter of firearm use in homicides throughout the US has changed over the course of my analysis. At the beginning, I thought that guns weren't the problem, thought it was more of a societal issue, but after now analyzing the data, my opinion has changed. So I'm going to be focusing on talking about three main things during this report: that the lack of reports on stolen or lost firearms, the large amount of states above the national average in firearm-related deaths, and the generally weak and unrestricted gun laws. So, my hypothesis is, through the addition of new and stronger gun laws and restrictions on the purchase of military-grade firearms such as handguns, large-caliber rifles, and fully automatic assault rifles, the total number of homicides throughout the United States will be drastically affected in a positive manner by the proposed stricter gun laws and regulations. So, the first part to proving my hypothesis is I analyzed the total firearm homicides versus the group population of 2012 and 2013. Now, total firearm homicide data was split state by state to get the wide variety of data and an accurate representation of the population. And then they were again grouped according to their state gun law strength. They were given a grade A to F. This grade was given by the Brady Campaign, which is an anti-gun lobbyist, and they've been grading states for 20 years according to the strength of their gun laws. So some problems or some questions that you might have is, why only 2 years? Well, the data previous to 2012 shows little change in the amount of firearm-related homicides, and that the previous data is less accurate to current political changes and opinions, and also the public view on firearms. So then, why state by state? Why not national? Well, this allows for a much more accurate representation of the population, as it's up to the states to determine the strength of their gun laws, what they can restrict, what they won't restrict. So, the second part to proving my hypothesis is I analyzed the total homicides versus the different weapon types used in each case. So they were again split state by state to give the accurate representation of the population. And so a problem that occurred during the analysis was that there's a large amount of unknown firearm types. So all of these unknown firearm types can be added to shotguns, rifles, handguns, etc. And now they're not just unknown firearms. The weapons are not recovered, or the caliber cannot be used to determine the type of weapon used in the homicide case. The third part to prove my hypothesis, I examined the estimated gun ownership versus state regulations on stolen or lost firearms. So states were examined more thoroughly to determine how lost or stolen firearms are handled. Now, problems is that there's no solid numbers on total gun ownership at all in the United States. There's the approximate 300 million owned, but that doesn't give me exact numbers, especially state by state. So to combat this, I got percentage ownership, which accounts for families that own at least one gun, one or more gun, and then I got the population of the state in each year, and then the amount of single firearm owners was calculated, so that gives me a baseline number that will give me the lowest possible amount of ownership in each respective state. Now this will make my comparison slightly inaccurate due to the estimated single gun ownership in the United States, but it's the best that I can do. So I did additionally some single variable analysis. I calculated the median and the mean to create some box and whisker plots and to just analyze the data further. Now some of this does help prove parts of my hypothesis. So the first part of my analysis, I compared the total group population versus the total firearm homicides. So you can see from the numbers here, they peak at 3,447 and on the low end are 507. So obviously the states are grouped according to the grade given to their gun laws. 6 were given a grade of A, 5 were given a grade of B, 6 were graded C, 7 graded D, and finally 26 were graded F. And now previously you can see from the graph that there's a strong correlation between total population and total firearm homicides, given from the R squared value of 9.76. So interesting to note that grades A and F hold the highest total firearm murders and also the highest populations. F holding 3,447 and A holding around 2,700. Now this is significant because it shows that the state laws don't particularly play a part in the amount of homicides, firearm related homicides that is, in each state. It's more dependent on the population of the given groups or each state. The second part of my analysis, I analyzed the different weapon types versus the total homicides. As you can see from the graph, firearms lead the pack, and then handguns are close to follow. Then down from that, you can see that the other types are much more closely packed together. Sorry about that. Now, through the analysis, you can see that handguns are the most commonly used weapons in every single state, and firearms in general account for the majority of all homicides committed. This is shown by the strong positive R squared value of 0.93, showing the correlation that as the amount of homicides go up, firearms increase drastically. Additionally, through this I did some analysis on the handguns since they account for such a large amount of the firearm homicides in the United States. As you can see from the graph, there appears to be a strong positive correlation between the amount of firearm homicides committed and the handgun homicides committed, obviously proven by the R squared value of 0.958. So, additionally, for every increase of about 1,000 firearm homicides, handguns are accounting for approximately 746 of that 1,000. That's about a 75%. So handguns are accounting for 75% of all increases in homicides in every single state in the United States, showing that handguns are obviously a major issue within the United States regarding firearm homicides. So here you're going to see box and whisker plots of the different weapon types. You can see in both handguns and shotgun homicides that the majority of states lie above that median value. And then again, you can see in rifles, the majority of states are above the median, and firearms are also above the median. Now this shows that all firearm types are an issue in the states. It's not restricted to fully automatic rifles, semi-automatic rifles, or just handguns. It is all weapon types. Finally, I analyzed the total lost or stolen firearms versus the estimated gun ownership. You can see from the graph that there is a positive correlation between the estimated guns owned and the total lost or stolen firearms per state. So as gun ownership increases, so does the total amount of stolen or lost firearms. Interestingly, Illinois has 0 reported lost firearms, with a minimum ownership of approximately 3.3 million. I thought that this was just silly because you own minimum 3.3 million and nobody lost any. It seems very unrealistic. Also, Illinois has no regulation on the report of lost or stolen firearms. And the gun ownership correlation between the total amount stolen and lost and gun ownership is proven by the positive correlation and proven by the R squared value of 0.746. Now, further analysis, I grouped the states by regulation on their stolen and lost firearms and found that only 8 must report regulations on stolen and lost firearms. Now, these 8 states have an average of approximately 165 reported lost or stolen firearms, compared to the rest, which have an average of 124 reported lost or stolen firearms. So in conclusion, to prove my hypothesis, the current strength of gun laws across the United States has very little effect on the firearm-related homicides. This is proven by the first part of my analysis, showing that it is much more dependent on the population of the state compared to the state gun laws. Obviously, F leads, but A, the group of A strength grades, follow very closely behind them, showing that it's much less determinant on the strength of their gun laws. Now, secondly, all weapon types used in homicides across the United States are an issue, shown from the box and the whisker plots. You can see that the majority of states lie above the median value, showing that there is an issue with all firearm types, not just handguns, fully automatic rifles, and semi-automatic assault rifles. It's a much more total issue across all firearm types in the United States. And finally, thirdly, the laws regarding the report of lost and stolen firearms need a drastic improvement, showing that only 8 states have a must-report regulation on lost or stolen firearms. The remaining states, all of these firearms that are unreported lost or stolen could end up in the hands of convicted criminals, could end up being sold in the black market, or many other things. They could end up in the hands of children. It's very unpractical to not have to report a loss of such a dangerous weapon such as a firearm. And additionally, after trying to find the numbers on total gun ownership, regulations regarding information about total gun ownership in the U.S. need to be added. Since that there is no actual solid numbers on the ownership in the United States, something needs to be done so that there can be a more accurate representation for analysis purposes of everyone, because it would drastically help in determining how to move forward in the restriction of weapons and the purchase of weapons. Here you can see my references. Thank you for your time. If you have any further questions, just let me know, post it in the discussion group or anything, and I will answer them as soon as I can. Thank you.